A city sleeps beneath the waves, holding a secret of 50,000 sacrificial victims. This is the story of a civilization that performed one of history's most staggering rituals and then vanished beneath the water. By the end, you will understand the terrifying beliefs that could lead to such an act. We will uncover who these people were and explore the chilling possibility that they deliberately sank their own city. What kind of faith demands the ultimate price from so many? The ocean floor kept its secret for centuries until a grid of light painted its ghostly contours. Marine archaeologists, guiding a submersible vehicle over a barren stretch of seafloor, watched their sonar screens resolve into a haunting image. There, in crisp detail, lay the sprawling outline of a city. The initial robotic dives sent back footage that defied belief. Eerily preserved stone temples rose from the silt, their facades untouched by the currents. Wide plazas, now home to schools of fish, stretched between foundations, and then the cameras found the bones, not just a few scattered fragments, but a vast collection of skeletal remains visible across the entire site. The sheer scale was immediately, terrifyingly clear. This city, located in a deep basin off a Central American coast, was not merely abandoned. The geology told a disturbing story. There were no signs of a catastrophic earthquake or a sudden tsunami. Instead, the entire valley showed evidence of being intentionally flooded, as if massive channels had been dug to guide the ocean inland. The water itself was the final, deliberate act. Reaching this site is a monumental challenge. Every dive is a race against time and pressure, with archaeologists working in the dim, cold silence of the deep. Each artifact recovered from the mud is a painstaking process. As more evidence was gathered, the initial awe turned to a profound dread. The researchers slowly realized they were not excavating a city that had tragically sunk. They were exploring a necropolis that was designed to be submerged, a giant, engineered grave holding its gruesome population for eternity. What they would learn next about the victims would only deepen the mystery. The number itself is almost impossible to fully comprehend. 50,000, that is not a casualty count from a battle or a plague. It is a single, deliberate event. Forensic archaeologists arrived at this staggering figure by mapping the entire site, section by painstaking section. They did not just count individual skeletons. They analyzed the density of bone fragments in the sediment, the square footage of mass burial pits, and used statistical models to extrapolate the total. The math kept pointing to the same terrifying conclusion. This was a number that dwarfed any other known sacrificial event in human history. The remains tell a story of chilling organization. These were not heaps of bones tossed into a pit. Many skeletons were found in careful, orderly rows, laid to rest with a strange sense of ceremony, yet the forensic evidence is unambiguous. The cause of death was almost always the same, a specific and brutal form of ritual violence, leaving distinct marks on the bones. This contrast is what makes the site so haunting, the combination of systematic, almost respectful arrangement with a horrifically violent end. Who were these 50,000 souls? The bones reveal a cross-section of an entire society. There are young men, likely warriors or laborers, their skeletons showing the marks of a physically demanding life. There are women and older adults, and most disturbingly, there are children. This was not an army of captured enemies. The demographic profile suggests these were the city's own people. This fact transforms the mystery. What kind of belief system could compel a civilization to offer up its own, from every walk of life, in such numbers? The logistics of such an event are mind-boggling. To gather, process, and inter 50,000 people requires a society of immense power and rigid control. Think of the infrastructure needed, the overseers, the sheer, quiet compliance or forced acceptance of the populace. This was not a spontaneous act of frenzy. It was a cold, calculated operation, planned and executed with the same efficiency used to build their towering temples. The societal structure must have been absolute, with the priestly class possessing unquestionable authority to command a sacrifice of this magnitude. The silent, orderly bones are a testament to that terrifying control, a power so profound it could orchestrate the descent of an entire city into a watery grave, taking its people with it into the dark. What could possibly be worth such a price? The silent stones rising from the seabed tell us who these people were. Their architecture is a testament to both artistry and raw power. The temples are monumental, built from immense blocks of stone fitted together with astonishing precision, yet they are devoid of the flamboyant carvings seen in other ancient cultures. The style is stark, imposing, and strangely utilitarian, as if every structure was built for a single, solemn purpose. Recovered artifacts fill in the details of their daily lives. Their pottery is sturdy and practical, decorated with geometric patterns and recurring symbols of water and serpents. Their tools and weapons, made of a dark, volcanic glass, speak of a society that mastered its harsh environment. But it is the rare, fragmented inscriptions that offer the most tantalizing clues. The script remains undeciphered, a series of stark glyphs that look less like writing and more like a series of warnings. They depict coiled creatures and stylized waves, hinting at a worldview dominated by the forces of nature and the creatures of the deep. This visual language points directly to their gods. The evidence suggests they did not worship a pantheon of deities for love, war, and harvest. Instead, their belief system seems to have revolved around a single, overwhelming power, a god of the abyss. This entity was likely not a giver of rain or a granter of victory in battle. It was a keeper of balance, a primal force that demanded payment to maintain the very order of the world. Think of it not as a request, but as a cosmic transaction. The world above, with its sun and its harvests, existed only so long as the world below was appeased. The orderly rows of sacrificial victims, the lack of resistance in their bones, all point to a deeply ingrained cultural truth that this was a necessary, if horrific, duty. So what could drive a society to make such an extreme offering? The answer likely lies in a perfect storm of desperation. A prolonged, multi-generational drought would have been seen as the god's displeasure, a warning that the balance was tipping. Famine would have followed, reinforcing the belief that a greater price was due. Perhaps a looming conflict with a rival city-state presented an existential threat, and their priests declared that only an unprecedented sacrifice could secure the abyss god's protection. But the most chilling possibility is that this was not a one-time act of desperation, but the culmination of their core belief. Their entire cosmology might have been built on the idea that the world's cycle required a massive return of life to the depths, a reset paid for in human souls. The flooding of their own city, then, was not a tragedy. It was the final, logical offering, a deliberate sinking of their entire world to satisfy the hunger of their god, and, in their minds, save the world above from complete annihilation. They were not just appeasing a deity, they were settling a cosmic debt. The forensic evidence locked within the bones points to a single, horrifying method. The marks on the skeletal remains are consistent and clear, the work of a sharp, obsidian blade. This was not death by drowning or entombment. It was a swift, precise, and brutally efficient act of ritual offering, performed on a scale that numbs the mind. The sheer number of victims, all meeting the same end, required a chilling level of organization, a production line of death directed by a priesthood that saw this not as murder, but as a sacred duty. This act alone would have stained the city's stones, but the story does not end there. The city itself was sacrificed. The geological evidence is undeniable. The basin in which the city rests shows no signs of a violent, natural collapse. There are no fault lines rupturing through its plazas, no tsunami deposits scattered among the bones. Instead, the land tells a story of intentional flooding. The channels leading into the city are not natural riverbeds. They are artificial, cut by human hands, massive earthworks designed to guide the ocean inland. This presents the core, breathtaking mystery. Did these two events, the sacrifice and the deluge, happen separately, or were they one and the same ritual? One theory suggests a natural disaster. Perhaps a powerful earthquake struck shortly after the mass sacrifice, collapsing the land and allowing the sea to rush in. In this scenario, the city was a tragic victim of geology, its ritual merely a grim prelude to an unavoidable catastrophe. The priests, having just performed the ultimate offering, might have seen the quake as divine wrath, a sign their sacrifice was rejected. But this theory has a critical flaw. The city is not shattered, its buildings stand upright, its walls are largely intact. An earthquake powerful enough to sink an entire valley would have left a trail of rubble, not this eerily preserved underwater museum. The more compelling and terrifying theory is that the flooding was the final act of the ceremony. Imagine the scene, the ritual complete, the 50,000 victims laid in their orderly rows, the priests and the remaining populace did not flee. They performed one last monumental task. They breached the canals, they opened massive sluice gates, or perhaps dismantled entire dikes they themselves had built to hold back the ocean. They deliberately unleashed the sea upon their own home, upon the remains of their own people. The water would have advanced not as a violent wave, but as a slow, inexorable tide, rising through the streets, filling the plazas, and finally covering the temples in a silent, green shroud. This was not a disaster, it was the culmination of their belief. They were gifting their entire city, a perfect, preserved offering, to the god of the abyss. They sank their world to save the world, sealing their pact with the deep in a way that could never be undone. The silence that followed was not one of tragedy, but of completion. The question that haunts us now is what they believed they were saving. What could possibly be so valuable that it was worth trading a city and 50,000 lives to protect? The picture that emerges from the deep is one of absolute, terrifying devotion. This was not a society collapsing in chaos, but one executing a plan with chilling precision. A powerful, devout civilization, driven by a faith we can barely comprehend, committed one of history's largest known acts of ritual killing before deliberately consigning their entire world to a watery grave. They did not run from the ocean, they invited it in. The silent, ordered city is a monument to the ultimate extreme of human belief, where faith eclipsed survival itself. This discovery forces us to confront the dark potential within structured society, the point where collective belief and absolute power can override the most fundamental human instinct, the will to live. It shows us how fear, especially fear of cosmic imbalance, can be harnessed to justify the unimaginable. The psychological mechanisms are both alien and unsettlingly familiar. The power of a shared narrative so strong it can convince an entire population that their own destruction is a sacred, necessary duty. We are left with haunting, lingering questions. What was the final sermon spoken before the waters rose? What did the priests truly believe would happen after their city was gone? And what became of the survivors, the few who may have watched from the hills as their home vanished beneath the waves? Did they simply disperse, their faith shattered, or did they carry the story of their great offering into new lands, a legend that slowly faded into myth? The city may be silent, but its story is one we must never forget. It stands as a permanent, sobering question from the depths. What do you think was the ultimate fate of this civilization? Share your theories in the comments below, and subscribe to dive deeper into history's greatest mysteries with us.